Welcome to one of the most exciting courses you will ever take, Art Appreciation, the humanities course that you will enjoy all the rest of your life because in the arts we have a joy and a peace like none other. Welcome to Art 100 Online. This is a pleasurable course to build what we call your aesthetic philosophy, that which you think is good and beautiful, and that which you think is detestable or bad. So you all have likes and dislikes. And what we want to do in this course is to raise your level of aesthetic growth. That is, to see things in a different way and to appreciate works of art as well as those functional objects that people have designed for us to use. So we welcome you to this Art 100. And we have certain goals and objectives in this course. We want to lift your spiritual and emotional life. That is, not in a religious sense, but to get you excited about things you see, and things you talk about, and things you read about. The arts, drama, and painting, and sculpture, and architecture. All these things work for us to refine what is called an aesthetic philosophy. What is aesthetics? It's the science of beauty, what one considers to be good and beautiful. And so in doing so, we want to increase your visual perception. How do you see things? Can you see things that perhaps you didn't look at before? A good example I always use is, of course, the bark of a tree. I ask you, what's the color of the bark of a tree? In most cases, you will say brown. But if you really go and look at the bark of a tree, you will see there are a multiplicity of colors there for you to react to. And so we want to stimulate you and an understanding about advertising. That's addition to what's in the textbook here, but we want you to understand political advertising and all kinds of ways in which they want you to do two things: believe in what you see and then buy. That has affected all of us. Car commercials, all kinds of commercials that show you things that aren't necessarily true. We want you to learn how to think more in depth, and we want to familiarize you with works that are around the world. You should know that the Pietà that you saw in the beginning slide there by Michelangelo Buonarroti is in Rome, in the back of the Vatican or St. Peter's Basilica. You should know where major works of art are located: architecture, painting, sculpture, and of course, to know those artists. And then we want you to always be enthusiastic about learning. Oh, there's nothing more exciting than to be at Essex County College and to enjoy learning in an atmosphere where people want you to learn. So we're going to motivate your enthusiasm about learning. If you realize it, with the internet and all kinds of things, we have more knowledge at our fingertips than at any time in the history of the world. So when we see a painting like this, notice how it's repetitious with circles, but each of those circles is different. It intrigues us, it engages us to go around the circles, to look at how the combination of colors are affecting us, some warmer, some brighter, some much more subdued. And we can really go and spend our time or some time talking about a work of art like this. In this course in Art 100, we're going to learn what it really means to see an abstract painting. Now, an abstract painting is not like a non-objective one. or a representational one. Most of the time when we look at artwork, we want to see something that's representational, something is visible, a car, a tree, or a house. But many times in abstraction, what we do is take an object and we distort it, we rearrange it, or we simplify it so that it comes out in a design that we want it to come out to, and it expresses our emotions. So on the left, you have a very famous painting by Pablo Picasso named Woman in a Mirror. On the right side, you see a painting that is full of expression, but it is one in which you might not want to hang on the wall as beautiful. So we're showing you here that every painting, every work of art is not beautiful. Some of it is more expressive. And our first definition of art that I want you to make sure you grasp and you make note of is that art is expression. It is expression, something coming from within the artist, and then you receive it when you look at it. We're going to talk about communication later on, but the name of the textbook for this course is called A World of Arts by Henry Sire, and this is the 7th edition. He's been adding to this book, and there are many areas of this textbook in which you can refer to, and even my artworks. Many places where my art lab, for an example, you can read up on things that we're talking about in the course. So make sure you get your textbook. Remember, A World of Art. That's the name of the textbook by Henry Sire, and you will be more than gratified. Henry Sire makes a very important series of points. He says when you're thinking critically about art. Now, criticism, most of the time people say, oh, he's criticizing you, and we take it in a negative. But in art, anything that is written or anything that is said about a work of art is called art criticism. You are reflecting and reacting to the work that you see. So he gives us 7 steps in our textbook. Look in the first chapter, and you will see, or the earlier chapters, how to think when critically looking at art. First, identify the artist's decisions and choices to use specific colors. If he uses reds and oranges, then that means these are warm expressions. If he's using blues and greens and purples, it's a cooler expression. If he's using lines that crisscross, he's expressing, or she's expressing, action. And of course, you'd ask questions. What is the artist trying to say here? What will he or she be communicating? Are they trying to give us a message? Are they trying to express their inner feelings? And then you're to describe the object. What does it look like? What is it? Some works of art we're going to study in this semester, it's non-objective. It has no objective form or shape. And yet when the artist puts on the color and the lines, there's a powerful message there. And then we're going to ask ourselves to question, do I know what I'm looking at? Or is there some meaning which I'm not aware? Is there some abstract meaning? We want you to kind of stay away from the emotions and be objective. And as our author says, do not oversimplify or misrepresent what you see, what's there on the canvas or out in the setting in the piece of sculpture. And of course, last but not least, learn how to tolerate things you don't know about. If you see a painting and you don't understand it, that doesn't mean that you should dislike it. It's to arouse your curiosity. And so this man here, he goes to the museum and he sees a work of art. He doesn't understand it, but he knows that those swirls are moving around and it creates an activity. Each swirl means there's wind, movement. There's warm. We have warm colors and cool colors. So there are a lot of ways to accept this work of art. A lot of ways to see it and to appreciate it. So we move on as we look at this many of the works of art that we want to see in this course. Look at this one, the sea and the sky, how it stands out for us. We have this work of art, and I said before, we want to increase your perception. I want you to look at this car or this photograph. What's wrong with it? What you see, is it really reality? There's something different and wrong about what is in this setting. See if you can write it down. What do you see and how fast did you see it? I'm going to give you a minute to look at it. And look at the reflection. And then write down what you see. The bottom line is the reflection is different from the actual car presented. That Mercedes-Benz is not the car that you see in the reflection. So perception and being able to pick up on that is very important. So our first definition of art is that art is expression. Expression coming from the artist. Many works express fear and anger. Some works express happiness and joy. Some works express sorrow and despair. But it is all expression. And expression about what? About life. About life, about the experiences of life, the events and circumstances of life. Now, we're going to give you this all in a handout, which is in our discussion section, number 1. Art is expression about human emotions. And we're going to talk about it in some of our reactionary discussions here in this first week online. So keep your notebook close by. Review this introduction again and again. And it is important that we begin to see that the artist has to sometimes give physical form to things that we feel or imagine or think. And we enjoy those things. A seascape is a good example. Now, when it comes to aesthetics, remember, that's the science of beauty. What one considers good and beautiful, what one likes and dislikes. You have an aesthetic philosophy, which we're going to talk about later in differing presentations to you, and we get different reactions. But you all like and have an aesthetic philosophy already. It's not something that's going to begin in this course. You have your favorite car. You have your favorite artist. You have your favorite colors. You have your favorite colognes. You have your favorite music. Well, now look how that happens. Information that goes through the senses causes you to like or dislike what we have, formulating what we call an aesthetic philosophy. What are our senses? Taste. What are some things you like to eat, and then what are some things you don't like to eat? Maybe you don't like spinach. Maybe you don't like broccoli. But the point is, taste is one, your taste buds, as one of your senses. Your touch. What do you like touching velvet? Do you like touching water? Do you like touching ice? Do you like touching sand? Do you like touching cotton. These are all textures that formulate what you like to feel and touch. Another one is smell. And of course, there are colognes. And you know, you can go and you can try and spray different colognes on, and sometimes you don't remember which one it is. So today what we do is we write it down and we spray it on a piece of paper, and then when it dries, we can determine which cologne or perfume we want to wear. Different deodorants, different kinds of colognes, different types of soaps with different smells. And there are many things we like to smell. I love to smell an apple pie when it's cooking. I love to smell chicken when they're frying chicken. I love to smell coffee when it's being brewed. So these are senses that we use our senses to determine what we like and what we dislike. You see, sight is the biggest one. We determine what we like or dislike through our sight. 83% of what we learn through our eyes. And last but not least, only 11% of what we learn through hearing. Now, when we look at all these multiplicity of senses determining taste, touch, smell, sight, and hearing, that's what helps us to constitute our aesthetic philosophy. The last point I want to make in this introductory presentation, this is our Camtasia presentation 1. Objects and all kinds of things are designed. You are designed. You're beautiful, beautiful form. And the artist considers you the most beautiful form in the world. I used to think that the egg was a beautiful form, but when you look at the human body, and history will attest to the fact that the artist considers the human body representing life, life with its figure, life in crime, life in happiness. So this beautiful design of a human being is important, but other things are designed, and they're designed according to a function. In other words, you've heard the expression form follows function. In other words, it must look like what it has to do. So in this book and in this discussion, in our first lecture this morning or this day, we want you to study some things in which form follows function. I want you to list for me about 20 things in which they are designed because of what they have to do. A good example is a fork, a knife, and a spoon. You don't eat or drink or absorb soup with a fork or a knife. You don't eat spaghetti with a spoon. In other words, each has its own function. And when you eat spaghetti, you even take a fork and twirl it around in the spaghetti, and it becomes a functional object. Likewise, with these three, you have the dust mop, you have the brush and pan, and notice how it's designed in a way so as to move dirt or move dust, and it looks like what it has to do. So I want you to remember these three words. Form follows function. A plane has to have wings or it will not fly. It has to have a way of breaking the friction in the air. So that's why many times the front is pointed. A plane must have wings in order to fly. Form follows function. So before our next lesson, we're going to go into the creative process we are going to see